Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I invite everyone to rise and join Council in singing O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I will now give our opening prayer, followed by our moment of silent reflection, and then we will begin the meeting proper. God, grant us understanding and patience, that justice, truth, and honesty may be evident in our decisions. Make us mindful of the needs of the people throughout the town of Oakville. Help us govern with the wider community in mind, and so create in us a desire for progress and responsible action. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, do we have regrets this evening?
Yes, this evening we have regrets from Councillor Khan.
Thank you. Councillor, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, how do you wish to proceed with the minutes of your previous meetings? Councillor Duddick and Councillor Johnston. Madam Clerk? All those in favor? Opposed? The minutes are adopted. This evening we have several delegations visiting us to share information with Council. And at this time, I would ask the clerk to call the first delegation.
First delegation is Dave Ferris, here speaking to item 6E of the Heritage Oakville Advisory Committee meeting, 43 Trafalgar Road, replacement of windows and doors.
Is Mr. Ferris here? Welcome, Mr. Ferris. Council looks forward to your information.
Basically, the point of being here this evening is mostly to go back on the Heritage decision regarding the windows at 43 Trafalgar Road. We had a minor variance for replacing 7 window units with a major before Heritage and eventually Council for the remainder of the windows. In those 7 window units that were to be replaced, one of those has been revoked. I have photographs here of it. It is in no way, any way historical to the building or otherwise. It was replaced in the 70s. It's a sliding patio door. I just don't understand why it was revoked, first of all, and would like to hear the argument.
Okay. That's your information?
Yes.
Thank you very much for bringing your information. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
The next delegation is Bill Hicks, here to speak to item 6B of the Heritage Oakville Advisory Committee meeting regarding 273 Williams Street, replacement of windows.
Mr. Hicks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Unfortunately, my client was going to be attending tonight as well. Oh, there he is. I'm going to let him go first, and then I'm going to speak second, if you don't mind. So I didn't even see him then.
So you're Richard Hughes?
Richard Hughes, yeah.
Well, Bill, normally we take the delegations in the order called by the clerk, And I appreciate your effort to help us chair the meeting, so we'll let you have that. Mr. Hughes, welcome.
Hello.
Now, unless you have a really loud voice, if you orient yourself to the microphone or it to you, it moves.
Okay, thank you.
Everything will be better.
Hello, my name is Richard Hughes. My wife Cynthia and I are the owners of 273 William Street in Oakville. We purchased the house in October 2012 and for nearly 2 years have been working on its restoration. We've worked with the Heritage Department to come up with ideas which enhance the property while maintaining its heritage characteristics. This includes the ongoing restoration of a grain barn on the property, which was in danger of collapse. While we were going through the restoration process, I noted that the existing windows were in extremely poor condition with woodworm and rot, and made the decision to discard them in favour of new windows. My mistake was not informing the Heritage Department. We were subsequently summoned to court and paid a fine for disposing of the old windows. When we purchased the house, it did have some non-approved aluminum and vinyl windows. We had already received approval to replace these windows with historically correct windows, which were double glazed. These matched the windows which were approved for the extension to the house. I now ordered windows which again were historically correct and which matched all of the windows we'd been given permission to install. As the restoration continued, we now had many openings in the house which gave rise to serious concerns about security and safety. After a suspected break-in, late July, I gave the window manufacturer the go-ahead to install the new windows. When we purchased the house, there were no storm windows on the house. So the windows we installed were identical in every respect except we used double glazed and existing were single glazed. I would ask the council to allow us to keep the installed windows in our house and not have to remove and discard them for a less energy efficient product. Thank you for your time. You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members. And I'm going to be very quick because Mr. Hughes has covered most of the points. What I wanted to reiterate was that we've been to the committee 3 times. We went to this committee meeting with a recommendation for support for the new windows that we were to install. We certainly agreed with that recommendation, but just to let you know that the use of the windows that we have put in the house are identical to what we've used in many other applications within the Heritage District. They are an accepted window. The only real difference is that they're double pane instead of thermal pane, and I think that if I had to interpret from the committee meeting, it almost seemed as if they thought that Mr. Hughes had done this on purpose, and I can assure you he did not do it on purpose. I was not involved in the review of the windows when they were thrown out, unfortunately, but from the pictures that I've seen of them, they were definitely in poor shape and really not worthy of restoration. So I just wanted the members to know, and members of council, that the windows that have been installed, the windows that had been proposed, and the windows that were supported by the staff of the Heritage Committee are exactly replicas of the existing windows, other than double pane instead of single pane, which to me is, you can't tell the difference from the outside. Some would disagree with that, but I think it's certainly a much more environmentally responsible decision as well. So, and with that, Mr. Mayor, I will, and members, I'll leave it. So.
Thank you very much for your information, and whoever restored the microphones, thank you for that too. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
The next delegation is Judy Wilson, who is Board Chair of the Halton Healthcare Services, here to speak to item 3, Halton Healthcare Services Local Share Update.
Welcome, Chair Wilson. We look forward to your information.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and members of Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity today to address you on behalf of Halton Healthcare Services. As the introduction stated, I'm the Board Chair of HHS. I am here tonight with an update on the extremely exciting development of the new Oakville Hospital. I will not list the numerous achievements in the history of the hospital because I am daunted by the countdown of the clock and wish not to take too much of your time. I do want to give you a snapshot of where we are on the hospital tonight, though. First and foremost, and remarkably, frankly, the project is on time and on budget. Excuse me. This is, given the magnitude of the project, as many of you will have seen, a really remarkable feat considering size and scope. For those of you who have driven past the site, and I'm sure that most of us have, you will notice that the structure in the surrounding property is beginning to look more and more finished every day. Certainly the landscaping is now taking place, the trees are being planted, paving of the internal road is happening, the parking lots are nearing completion, and we even have the traffic lights installed at the hospital entrances off 3rd Line, and as you well know by the name, Hospital Gate. And if you think it looks busy outside, you should see what's happening inside. Ellis Dawn has reported that the construction is now 78% complete, with more than 1,100 workers on the site every day. They are confident that we will hit our substantial completion date of July 31st, 2015. And that is the day we get the keys to the new facility. After that, we will spend time conducting extensive orientation sessions for staff, volunteers, and physicians. We will be busy installing, testing, and commissioning some of the 29,000 pieces of furniture and equipment, everything from MRIs, of which there are 3, CT scanners, to an extremely robust inventory of IV poles and monitors. We have been very busy in procurement over the past year, and we will also, very importantly, during this period, be inviting our community to tour their new hospital. With so much activity continuing to shape the physical building, it's also very important to begin to think about moving into our facility and about the operational necessities of being ready to move in. To this end, one of the things we are most proud of is our innovative approach to operational readiness and the operational readiness framework that has been developed specifically for our new hospital. We want to introduce as much new technology, workflow systems, practices, and processes as we can while we are still at the existing site, so that by the time our staff and workforce generally gets to the new Oakville Hospital, they are ready to perform their duties as though they have been performing them for years. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that our first patient in the new hospital is served as though they were patient number 10,000 or so. This is a project about which we can all, and I mean all of us, excuse me, we can all be proud. With the experience gained through these projects, the new Oakville Hospital is now considered a leader in many respects with respect to hospital infrastructure projects in Canada. We have several leading practices that have been developed for the new Oakville Hospital, some around the quality of inpatient bedroom design and governance processes for major capital infrastructure projects, as well as our extraordinarily well-respected nationwide approach to operational readiness. HHS representatives, staff, have presented at a number of national conferences, have been published in an industry journal, and there is no doubt that this hospital has served as a role model in the area and is something that this magnificent project will have as its legacy. The final leg of this journey will be the move to the new hospital in December of 2015, when we open the doors to a new state-of-the-art hospital that will change healthcare in Oakville. And of course, none of this would have been possible excuse me, without the support of this town council and your commitment of $130 million towards the local share plan. On behalf of Health and Healthcare Services, I would like to thank you for your continued support of this project over the years. Some of you were on council when we began planning for this project in 2001, when we saw that we were running out of room at our existing facility and that the facility was aged and difficult to sustain. It has been a journey, and we are fortunate to have always had your support. We will now all have collectively ensured that the families in Oakville have the health care they require today, tomorrow, and 30 years from now. Back in 2009-10, seems shorter than that ago, when we first came to this council asking for support, we were well aware of the enormity of the request. As a matter of fact, we had been working for months before that to define as precisely as possible the entire local share plan that was being requested. We sharpened our pencils, went over the numbers again and again, and with your help, submitted a comprehensive local share plan to the province that brought together the contributions of the Oakville Hospital Foundation, Halton Healthcare Services, and the town of Oakville. Since that time, we have, of course, been monitoring the numbers closely. Rest assured that HHS is soundly aware of its accountability for the expenditure of ministry funding, the oversight of funding, and our obligation to members of the community and to all of the contributors to the local share plan. In fact, given the size of the project, HHS established a leading governance practice through the development of an innovative governance charter and committee structure. The model has strengthened our financial planning, monitoring, controls, and oversight to effectively manage the project. Part of that was realizing the importance of our stakeholder in the town of Oakville, and a significant part of that was the participation of the town of Oakville in the Capital Planning Committee, and more about that later. With construction well underway, our attention has now shifted to the transfer of the existing buildings and property to the town of Oakville. A motion made at the June 12, 2004 meeting of the HHS 14 meeting of the HHS Board of Directors authorized the transfer of the property at 327 Reynolds to the town of Oakville. Town and hospital staff have been working collaboratively on the transfer agreement, and the key principles of the agreement are well in hand. Ours is truly a partnership. I want to again thank every member of the town of council for the foresight you had in investing in this project and in recognizing the importance of a project of this magnitude. Your financial commitment spoke volumes, but your personal interest and commitment was extremely important to us. I want to thank Mayor Burton specifically for his contributions at the board table, at the board meetings, for his regular time, advice, and counsel. I would, in addition, like to thank Town CAO Ray Green and our good friend Commissioner Gord Lalonde, the town's member on our Capital Planning and Advisory Committee, for their continued support and their continued very significant efforts. When this project is complete, I believe that we will all have taken part in something very few people get to experience. Our community has built a hospital from the ground up, one that will provide the highest level of patient care to our community, and that we should be all proud of. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Wilson, for those remarks. I have to say, this is by any measure far and away the biggest thing ever to happen in our history. and I congratulate you, President Denise Hardin, and everyone else on the board and the staff for the amazing work that you've done. It is truly going to be an amazing advance in healthcare for all of our community. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Wilson? Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
Next delegation is Heather Saunders, here to speak to item 6A of the Heritage Oakville Advisory Committee meeting regarding 209 Allen Street and replacement of windows.
Ms. Saunders, welcome.
Hi.
If you'll take your place and share your information with us, we're looking
Thanks.
forward to it.
That was a big one to follow. Just here to talk about replacing.
If I could just get you, the microphone can swivel to follow you, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, it works much better if you speak at it. Thank you.
Just here to talk about an application for replacing some windows in a home. We're moving into at the end of August, so the application was put in by the current homeowner. We will be moving, like I said, August 28th. I have some points. I have a printout for all of you. My points for requesting the new windows. Number one is safety. The windows are original, and currently there's aluminum storms on the windows that are not under the heritage guidelines. So replacing the windows with wood windows would get rid of the aluminum storm issue. And of course, add value to the home with the new windows. We're only talking about 6 windows, which are all in the children's bedrooms. So it's not the entire house. And of course, the energy efficiency issues. I have some photos also that I printed out for everyone. There's issues right now, broken glass, mechanisms, and things like that. So anyway, I can give you the photos after. I have, oh, do you want me to bring all the copies for you? Yeah?
Ms. Saunders, did you have more for us? Okay, well then thank you very much. Sorry to detain you there. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the next delegation.
The next delegation is Dr. Sharif Soriel, owner regarding the sale of lands in front of 3358 Lakeshore Road, item C2 on tonight's agenda.
Welcome, Dr. Soriel. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Your Worship. Oh, I'm sorry. Honorable members, I just want to commend the way you started your meeting. It's the first time for me here, and it's really amazing that the feeling of patriotism that you get when you sing the anthem and the little prayer. I really got touched. And I hope that everybody will feel that he's going to stand in front of a just God for all his doings. I want to thank the councillor Robinson and Council Johnston for their support for 8 years. I've been trying to rebuild this house for 8 years. I bought it in 2007, and up till now I couldn't. I was trying to abide by every possible law in the province, and it was like as soon as I bought it, there was an issue with the seawall. It took a while. The seawall was built at 10 times the cost of a regular seawall because it's. I'll skip that part. I'll go to the main point, which is a little black walnut tree. I was supposed to this great meeting approved that I can buy the land in front of my property that belongs to the town, and I thought that everything is over. And then there was another hinder or a little problem is that black walnut tree that was supposed, the entire discussion for a few months was that the town is supposed to cut it. And finally I said, okay, it's fine. As soon as I get possession of the land, we'll cut it. They have the drawings for the redevelopment for years and years now. And apparently everybody knows that this tree is cutting. And all of a sudden they want to preserve this tree. Though the town has cut in the neighboring Petro-Canada Park at least 10, 15 trees, if not more. And I'm very familiar with 2 trees that they dropped the branch on my fence, and the fence broke, and they cut the entire tree. So at the discretion of the town, they do cut trees. And this is a very dirty tree because it keeps on dropping leaves and fruits. The walnut fruit is like 200 grams. If it drops from 15 feet, it can do big injury. If it drops on a kid's fontanelle, which is the open parts in his skull, the kid will get permanent brain damage. So thank God for the hospital, but it can't treat that. So this tree should not, and the canopy, the tree is on town land, and the entire canopy of the tree is on my land. And it has been dropping fruits and leaves for the years, but because it's a tear-down property, seldom anybody's there. And I have to clean after the town tree. And if any cars go there after the fruits are crushed, it's very slippery. There's no traction. You'll do an accident. So I would encourage, because trees are for men. Men are not for trees. Although I am a nature lover, I know that I love the tree on brand that you preserved. But trees are for men. Men are not for trees. So human safety is an issue with this tree. I would suggest that the town remove it immediately because they've removed trees at their discretion when it's needed, even to other people, like another person that had trees dropping just leaves on his car, and the town did remove it. I believe it was, I can't recall the name of the street now, but I have it in writing. The other issue that they are worried about, that the driveway will be raised a little bit, like about 3 feet up, and they say it wouldn't look nice from the street because I'm siding on a park. I have a 6-foot fence and 11 to 12 feet cedar bushes or trees over there. The member of staff said if the fence, which I spoke to you about, Your Honorable, your Worship, a few years ago, and you kindly built that tree through the help of Councillor Robinson. They replaced the chain fence with a wooden tree for privacy. And the member of staff said, if this fence is going to break, we're not going to replace it to return back. So I'm really concerned about how the staff think about spending the money. Like the previous fence that you replaced for me kindly for privacy, there wasn't anything wrong with it. So if this fence will go, you replace it with the original kind of fence. I don't think that the member of staff was right in his discretion of suggesting that we return back to the non-private thing. These are the 2 issues, apparently, that are stopping me from developing a property for 8 years. I think it's way too long. I thought, like, I'm coming here that the council will help protect me and protect my neighbor, and we all abide by one law, not that it's going to be so prolonged. I don't want to get into the seawall. But I just mentioned a thing, it's a safety issue. The seawall with the design as is, because it's a shore, or it's a, what do you call it? There were kids swimming there. The water is not tested for E. coli. There is no lifeguard, and the elevation of the seawall, or the pebbles, are at 77 meters. And the bottom is 73. So any kid that falls from there in the water won't be able to come out. This is a big issue, a safety issue, because I'm concerned about this town and how it's handled. I would look into it and make sure that this is a seawall, not a shore. If anybody, I mean, it should be very well guarded that nobody goes into the sea. It's not tested for E. coli. It's not safe. A kid that drops from there would drop to his death. This is a seawall. There is no marking. There is nothing over there. And these are two issues around my property. Thank you kindly for hearing me. I don't want to take more of your time, but I would love that you consider it, and I'm pretty sure of your wisdom.
Thank you very much for your information. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Next delegation is Peter Saad, the solicitor on behalf of Dr. Sorial, regarding item C2 on this evening's agenda.
Welcome, Mr. Saad.
Good morning.
Council looks forward to your information.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I've never seen someone so committed to wanting to live in the town of Oakville. The resilience of Dr. Sorial to have this property built is really a testament to his passion to being a member of the town of Oakville. He has paid $80,000 in taxes and has not resided in the property. Ultimately, what's happened, or what seems to have happened, is every step of the way, a new obstacle seems to arise. When we consider sort of the facts of how we get here, we had actually come a long way. And Dr. Sorial didn't bore you with the details of things outside your jurisdiction, but we went through Conservation Halton and Conservation Authority, and everything went well there. It took a while. And the final piece of the puzzle was this piece of land. We had some discussions about it, and everything seemed to have been in order. And we got a letter just recently, essentially saying that the sale of the property is no longer available, and it's because the planners had decided against the walnut tree. His experience has actually been rather disappointing, and while rules are common sense and discretion is very important, and I think ultimately we're at the point right now where it is very, the finish line is very near. 8 years is a very long time, and I ultimately think that the town of Oakville wants to be perceived, and it's in everyone's best interest to see new development. And if anything, he's going to increase the value of his property, which will result in increased taxes. What's happening right now is actually harming the value of the property and the investment he's made over the years. The walnut tree exposes the town to extensive liability. Now, for now, the property is not, no one's residing in the property. At a future point in time, whether Dr. Sorial decides to pursue the matter further, ultimately he will have to restore the economic value that you have a house that no one can really live in, that he can't rebuild as is. And I think there comes a point where we all have to work together to find common sense and common ways to agree to make the property usable, which it isn't right now. I think the walnut tree being where it is, knowing that other trees have been cut down, well, all we're asking for is that at this point we're very close to seeing a new house, increased revenue for the town, and we ask for your support to use the discretion to ultimately assist my client in seeing that his property be developed rather than, I don't know, dragging it out for another year, 2 years, 3 years, and continuing in status quo. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your information, Mr. Saad. Madam Clerk, are there more delegations? Well, that concludes our delegations for this evening. And Council, if we turn to our agenda, we have no standing committee or committee of the whole reports. And the first item on the agenda is the consent item for the fire route bylaw. Councillor Johnston moves it, seconded by Councillor Adams. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next item is our discussion item number 2, the Oakville Hydro Report and Authorization Request. And you have the recommendation before you. How do you wish to proceed with that? Councillor Elgar moves it. Councillor Duddick seconds it. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Third item is the Halton Healthcare Services local share update, which you've had from the town manager and myself. It's moved by Councillor Elgar, seconded by Councillor Knoll. Is there discussion? Councillor Demoff.
I have some questions. Okay? Okay. Thank you for the update. My questions had to do with the dividends that we're going to be getting from Oakville Hydro. So the first one, I guess, is what percentage of the dividend is coming from renewable energy projects versus acquisitions? Doesn't have to be exact. I'm just wondering where the bulk of the dividend money is coming from.
Council, about 75% will be coming from renewable energy projects that we've invested in or acquired over the course of time.
Don't go away, because I suspect that these will probably need to come to you as well. So when you're talking about these renewable energy projects, are they FIT programs, or are they?
We have one large one that's a FIT project, and then we have the smaller ones on this roof and our own roof, but we have one large solar farm.
And are they 20-year agreements, or?
It's a 20-year agreement.
So
yes.
it's outside our 25-year time frame for the dividends then?
That particular investment is a 20-year time frame, yes. Mm-hmm.
And how much is it contributing, do you know, to the dividend that we're going to be looking at?
I'll ask the CFO. Not off the top of his head, he doesn't have that number.
Okay. I wouldn't mind getting
we
that.
provide that. Mm-hmm.
And were they financed, or they are?
Some of them are, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you'd like, I can send you these questions, and perhaps you could provide us with, I'm just concerned that we're going from 2.6 million to 5.6 million over 3 years. So maybe you could explain to us where that growth is coming from, if you don't mind.
Well, the solar farm that we've built is just coming online this year, and so there's a significant contribution from that. That's a 10 megawatt solar farm in the Belleville area. And then we do have our locate businesses, PVS and GTEL Engineering, that are providing a fair amount of net income for this. And we have a number of other infrastructure-related projects that we're working on.
I think it's wonderful that you're contributing to this. So please don't get me wrong. I think we're very fortunate that we're able to finance our portion of the hospital with these dividends. My only reason for asking is that if the dividends don't come through where you're expecting, then we'll have to be getting the money from elsewhere.
I'm very confident that we'll be able to deliver on these dividend projections, for sure.
Okay. That was all I had from the Oakville Hydro side.
Thank you.
The other question I had to do with the 90 million that we're borrowing, and where we're talking how it's going to impact what we're able to borrow in the future. I'm just wondering if any of the projects we've been talking about, for example, any large capital projects like Oakville Arena, will be impacted by what's being borrowed for the hospital.
Through you, Mayor Burton. First of all, with respect to the debenture debt itself, we still remain within our stated policy which is very conservative, with that additional debt. The only issue that we bump up against is if you look at the various lending agencies, Moody and as well as the Moody's and other places like that, is on the debt to reserve ratios. And generally, they like to see debt to reserves, that being something less than 1, for a very short period of about 2 years. And the initial part, our debt to reserve ratio is very close to that 1-to-1. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. As some of our other debt is retired within the next couple of years, our debt to reserve ratio moves into a very solid category and will remain there even with all the other projects we're looking at.
But you didn't answer my question, though. Will it impact any of the projects that we're looking at now? I mean, Oakville Arena is coming on stream within 2 years, so.
Yeah, the elements that are in the capital forecast that's been approved, the 10-year forecast, they're not affected by this.
Okay. Sorry, I thought of something else as you were answering, and it's gone now, so I may have, I'll defer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I didn't see, and maybe I didn't notice, was there mention of the Oakville Trafalgar High School? I saw a mention of the Wyndham Manor, I see the hospital, but I don't see any mention through the report of the heritage property.
Again, through you, Mayor Burton, that actually gets transferred as part of the hospital property, because it's actually merged into one property with the main hospital.
The fact it wasn't noted gave me concern, so thank you. Good.
Councillor Demoff?
Out of what the other one was, I'm sorry. When you were talking about our debt to reserve ratio, what happens if we were to get a significant weather event like we did last winter, where we're looking at some fairly major expenditures that we're not planning for? Is this going to cause any kind of problems for us?
I think what the report is saying is that we're going to take a debenture for $90 million, and that's a large amount of money, and we want to protect our AAA credit rating. So that means that we have to keep our reserve ratios to that debt at a constant level. The town still has contingency funds and reserves that it would be using in the event of a disaster like we've just been through. It's just, it's really a caution that we're still within all of our policies. We're taking a prudent course, but this is a big piece of money that we just have to be careful of as we go through the next few years.
Just as a supplement, and I think what Mr. Lalonde said, it's a prudent course that we're on. I mean, bumping up against it for 1 or 2 years is not really the issue. It's having a plan and showing that that debt to reserve ratio will be changing, as opposed to we're just allowing it to float up there and stay up there. So it's not so much the 1 or 2 years that it's there, it's showing that we have the plan for it to move back.
Thank you, Councillor Demoff. Councillor Knoll and then Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, just wanted to thank the board chair for the excellent presentation today. Very exciting. I remember being on the board when we initially voted in favor of proceeding with this project. It was a very exciting day and probably the single most expensive vote I've ever cast. A couple quick questions. First of all, I'm curious, and I probably should have asked the chair, so I apologize for not asking earlier. How is the foundation doing on their fundraising goals? And I don't know if maybe staff know that, or we could ask the chair to come back. I'm not sure.
I can answer that
Great.
question for you. The foundation is meeting its goals.
Great.
And they anticipated that by the time that we reach, by the time the hospital reaches substantial completion, the local campaign will have contributed about $55 million.
That's awesome. Congratulations to everybody in the town of Oakville and everybody who contributed to that. Item 6 in our resolution that we passed way back yesteryear, authorizing our contribution was, Your Worship, you writing to the province about the ministry funding the Sheldon space at a 90-10 basis. Have we had any response to that?
We had a delightful response. Mr. Green, I think you might enjoy giving the rest of the answer.
Well, certainly, I think the main issue was the original estimate was to be about $30 million. The Sheldon space is at $4.5 million. And actually, the latest status, I'm not sure. So I need to stop there.
But we've obviously made some great progress on that, yeah.
Yeah, 4 million is way better than 30.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I think those are my questions. The only thing I wanted to comment on was my favorite part of this report is the last paragraph of page 30, which says the town will be able to finance the local share commitment without creating any additional property tax increase. So congratulations to everybody, Your Worship, the staff team, and the hospital for making that possible. We've come a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knoll. On your behalf and on everyone else's behalf, let me reflect that credit to the folks who've done so much to make it come true. Our wonderful people at Oakville Hydro. Thank you very much for being here so we could say that to you.
Yes, I apologize. I should have put them at the top of the thank you list. So thank you, President and team.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you very much, and I'll reiterate the thank yous to our Oakville Hydro crew and our staff and the hospital crew who have been working so diligently on all of this. I wonder if our staff could outline in greater detail the response that they provided on page 30 under the local share agreement and the issue of reductions in the local share plan or savings within that plan. And maybe the timing of that and how that'll work, how that review will happen.
Sure, thank you. The local share plan is a very detailed document. It is covered in something called the Development Accountability Agreement, which is essentially about a 70-page legal agreement. In that agreement, there is a significant plan on how the hospital will be financed. So the people from Halton Health Services and the people from the ministry worked through this very detailed spreadsheet of lines determining what would be covered and what the share would be, and finally concluded that. So that Development Accountability Agreement was signed off, I think October, it's in the notes, it was October, I think, of 2011. So that document defines what the local share is. There are some variables in whether the Halton Health Services will be able to compile the amount of money that they need to fund the local share, of which we are one of the partners. And so we have been observing whether that money is flowing into Halton Health Services in the way that we anticipate, or the way that agreement anticipates, and it is. The contract itself for the building of the hospital is a fixed price contract, so that is a fairly stable number. So we have been monitoring that. We will continue to monitor that until we reach substantial completion on July 31st, 2015. And if there are any changes to that, we will be adhering to the principle of the agreement, which was the town's contribution is the last in and the first out. But at this point, it's moving along exactly as expected.
So we shouldn't be expecting any first outing to occur, any savings to accrue to the town?
Well, I'm the last one to predict the future, but we're watching very, very closely in case that happens.
Okay, because that's a question I think we all want to know the answer to eventually. Thanks very much.
Well, I think all forecasts of the future are subject to risk, including negative ones, so you may as well wait and see how it turns out. If there are no other questions, I'll look for a mover and seconder. Oh, I had that. I'll put the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that carries. You know, considering the historic nature of the decision, I wonder if you'd like to have a recorded vote. All right, then those who wish to be recorded in support, please rise to be named. Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Lapworth, Councillor Elgar, Mayor Burton, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Byrd, Councillor DeMoff, Councillor Duddick, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Colleagues, I think it's true to say we've made history, and for the good. And I feel like we should have I always like to have a party at the drop of a hat, but stay tuned, there may be one. Thank you very much. And thank you to the hospital. Thank you to Oakville Hydro. You're terrific to work with, and our community is the great beneficiary of that work. Council, I have to draw your attention now to item number 4, the notice of intention to demolish at 3060 Seneca Drive. The recommendation is that the property be removed from the Oakville Register of Properties of Cultural Heritage Value or Interest. And I'll call your attention to the fact that you did receive, distributed at the meeting this evening, a letter advising to the contrary. And I'll look to Councillor Robinson. Do you have a motion?
Your Worship, I am prepared to make a motion, but with your indulgence, I would like to speak and make some observing points before I make the motion. It's probably against procedure, but can I go that route?
Sure. Okay. Councillor, you get to speak to your motion anyway.
Well, I know, but, well, okay, I'll make the motion.
It'd be ideal, so you're moving it. I need a seconder.
No, I'm not moving it.
Pardon?
I'm not moving it. That's the part difficult.
Councillor Duddick is moving the motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Elgar is seconding it. Now it's on the floor. It's available for debate. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. About 2 hours ago, I received a telephone call from a lady that lives in Seneca Street. And she talked to me about the fact that she'd talked to a Mr. Martin Hollywell, who used to live in that house, now lives up in the 519 area code. Okay, and he lives up in the 519 area code. And the information that I received this afternoon or early this evening was contrary to some of the information that's in the report. Your Worship, the report says that the house was built in 1910. Mr. Hollywell says it was built in 1835. The report talks about the rear addition being added on in 1967 and 2010. Mr. Hollywell says that the rear additions were added on much before that. Now, therefore, if there's any substance to these allegations, that means that some of the contents of the report, so eloquently written by our staff, might need to be revisited. And therefore, your motion, Your Worship, mine would have been that we receive this report and not approve it. Receive it, we'll automatically let it go to designation, but historical designation, I believe that's the way it would work, because time will be up on the 26th of August. And this, however, would give the new property owner the option to appeal it and start afresh. So I will not be supporting Councillor Duddick's motion, but rather I would like to see this denied or received, probably would be the more political way to put it. In other words, not approving the recommendation that's before us for those reasons.
Thank you, Councillor. I see Ms. Shepherd is back. Are you here to speak to this issue? Is Mr. Hanna, who from planning is going to provide information on this? I think the most important thing to provide first is the way the clock ticks on a demolition application and where we are with respect to that, in case that's an applicable element here. Anyway, Mr. Hanna, you heard the information. We look to you for a response.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on the factual piece about the motion, if council were to do nothing tonight, that's certainly an option. The 60-day notice period expires on August the 26th, so in effect, they would be able to demolish the structure at that point in time. The only other alternative to this property remain open for not demolishing would be to alternatively move to a notice of intention to designate which is contrary to what is being recommended by staff and by Heritage Oakville. So that would be the alternative, which would allow for the proceedings to keep going.
So if I understood you correctly, the councillor's concern is in effect moot because of the clock and the nature of the demolition process.
Correct. At this point in time, I believe that I haven't seen the piece of information that the councillor has, but I'm relying on not only the staff heritage assessment or the research report, but also the heritage impact assessment that was completed by another heritage expert, and they both come to the same conclusion of when the house was built. So I'm having a bit of difficulty with that aspect.
Thank you. Councillor Dudek?
Yes, just for the benefit of the other members of council who were not in attendance at the Heritage meeting, we did wrestle long and hard with this one. And at the end of it, we came to the conclusion that there was not sufficient merit to do a Part 4 designation as opposed to a Part 5, which is a district. You have to apply very strict criteria in order to move forward with that. And we just did not have the comfort there that we had indeed a piece of property, albeit very interesting and has various points that are attributes for heritage, but not enough to stand up for the designation.
So, Councillor, you maintain your motion. Thank you. Is there other discussion? I don't know how I did that. Is there other discussion? And I'll put the vote. All those in favor of the motion? And those against? The motion carries. All right, that moves us along to item 5, and we return once again to the desk of Councillor Ralph Robinson and Councillor Alan Johnston, the stalwart representatives of Ward 1, Bronte. Councillor Robinson, you're the mover. You're first.
Your Worship, it's a fairly long document, and everybody has seen it for a substantial period of time. However, there is one amendment that I have worked with Councillor Johnson on and Mr. Brennan, and they both believe it's appropriate. The concern about removing the Halton community housing situation from the protocol was sort of taken care of in the new whereases and in the new resolves, but we wanted to be a little bit more specific. So, based on what I just said now and all the other stuff that's before us, I'm just going to read the first resolve, and it goes like this with my amendment: that the region of Halton be requested to amend its protocol to allow radio communications equipment to be sited on regional-owned facilities, brackets, other than such facilities used by Halton Community Housing Corporation, brackets, not just to support municipal operations or emergency services such as paramedic, police, and fire services, but also when requested by the local municipality. And again, Your Worship and Councillors, we've just added that one piece in there that clarifies it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Johnston?
Yeah, just to emphasise Councillor Robinson's comments. As President of the Housing Corporation, I was concerned that we don't consider any housing in the protocol. So that makes it quite clear that it's not there.
So you wanted to avoid the appearance of moving something from one place of housing or residence to another?
Precisely, yes.
All right. Is there other discussion? Shall I call the vote? All those in favor of the resolution? Any opposed? And the motion carries. Council, you have two confidential items before you, C1 and C2. Are you able to give a motion in public? First, let me see if I have motions. Councillor Robinson.
Your Worship, I would like to go in camera to make some comments and observations to the members.
Which one?
C2.
C2, thank you.
I would move C1.
C1 is moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dudek? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? C1 is carried. As a courtesy to the public, before we go into camera on C2, would you like to deal with the rest of the balance of the advisory committee minutes? Councillor Dudek is moving them. Councillor, I think, no?
I just wondered, prior to council having an opportunity, given the fact we've heard from several delegations this evening regarding the windows. I wonder if, I think it's E, is it 4E, that there was some need for clarification in regards to that, because Councillor Giddings wasn't able to be there at the time, and I know he had concerns regarding it.
So, Councillor, are you seeking or offering clarification?
Well, what I'm seeking is from staff the rationale behind their recommendation to the committee, and if they can give the other members of council some sort of indication as to where the committee went in regards to the recommendation they came up with. There was a second piece to the recommendation, and I think maybe council would benefit from hearing some of the background.
Thank you for the helpful suggestion. Susan? Carolyn, sorry.
That's all right.
My
Through you,
bad.
Mr. Mayor, we have 2 items that there were different recommendations on, I believe 6B and 6E. Is it that you'd like to hear both of them? Okay. So we'll start with item 6B. That is for 273 William Street. So you heard the delegation earlier for that. The recommendation by staff was to approve the application as submitted. So this was essentially to replace the windows with new thermopane windows. And the committee, the Heritage Committee, had recommended that instead of the thermopane windows, that new single glazed windows be installed with, I believe, storm windows as well. So staff's recommendation was to do just the thermopane wood windows because that's consistent with what's done with the rest of the Heritage District in that area. It's also consistent with the rest of the windows on the existing house and the new addition. So that was staff's take on it. The Heritage Committee wanted something, I guess, that was considered to be more authentic. But when we're dealing with Part 5 district properties, we're looking for windows that are consistent generally with the neighborhood, which look great from the street, which are as historically accurate as possible, but while using new materials. So that's why that was staff's recommendation.
I think, Your Worship, what I was trying to capture there, and thank you very much, Carolyn, for that, was the fact that the delegate had sort of reinforced what staff had said in that they found it was compatible with other situations. So hearing straight from staff that that's where they were going.
Yes, so 6E is 43 Trafalgar Road, very similar situation, but here we have a recommendation by staff that the application be approved subject to certain bit windows being restored rather than being replaced, and the Heritage Committee agreed with that. However, we had moved from staff's perspective that the windows that were being replaced be replaced again with thermopane windows. The committee recommended instead that the new windows be single glazed windows with storm windows in addition to the single glazed windows. So similar situation that you had with the other item. Staff feels that the windows that they had recommended approval of, which are the thermopane windows, are consistent with what's approved in that Heritage District.
And in that situation, Your Worship and other members of council, I raised the issue of the fact that, as the delegation had made reference in his presentation, that they've already paid their fine. It's gone through the legal process. And I raised the concern that we cannot be punitive in our motions given there's a proper channel in which to address those. So that's what that was.
Thank you, Councillor Dudek. So what motion will you provide us here with respect? Councillor Giddings is going to do it. Councillor Giddings?
I believe that Councillor Dudek would like to move receipt of the minutes and move the staff recommendation for items 6A, 6C, 6D, and 6F. And further, that the staff recommendation, contrary to the advisory committee, be moved for 6B and 6E.
You can move those two.
Okay.
Because I voted in favor of that.
All right, so I will make that motion.
Thank you. A seconder? Well, we won't need questions if there's no seconder.
I'll second it.
All right. It's seconded by Councillor Elgar, moved by Councillor Giddings, and questioned by Councillor Elgar.
Yes, thank you. Through Mr. Chair, I'm not on Heritage, but we had Ms. Saunders come tonight to speak to us, and it was on regarding 6A. I wonder, can staff comment on that? Because we've seen the pictures of the, she provided the pictures she has shown us. And I'm wondering if staff can comment on what she has said basis what's in this report.
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor, I haven't seen the pictures that were distributed, but essentially the recommendation of staff was to have the windows restored instead of replaced. That is consistent with the district plan guidelines for that heritage district. The district plan recommends restoration of heritage features such as windows rather than replacement, and the windows were considered to be in quite good condition. There are contemporary aluminum storms on the windows, but these could be replaced with new wood storm windows. So staff's recommendation in this case, because the windows are considered to be major heritage features of the building, that they be restored. And then that was the Heritage Committee's recommendation as well.
Okay, now would the Heritage Committee have seen the windows that we saw tonight, the picture of the windows of the rot?
Quite honestly, I don't know. Ones that we would not.
I'm just taking a look at the pictures now. They are the windows that we had looked at. I do see a bit of paint coming off. In my professional opinion, having looked at a lot of windows that need restoration, these are not windows that are necessarily rotten. They're just windows that need some repair work and restoration work. Very similar to other windows that have been repaired and restored in the Heritage District.
It was just the one in the upper left-hand corner. I thought it didn't look very pretty. I thought it looked rotted. It wasn't just paint, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not sure which window. I'm looking at one with 5 pages. Windows. Page 4. Yeah. Yes, to us that looks like a repair that could definitely be made, but from our perspective, we've dealt with a lot of window restoration contractors who do this kind of work. Often it's not a complete rot, it's just a section that needs to be stripped down, repainted. And of course, a lot of these windows are painted shut, so they just get stripped, repainted, the pulleys get put back in. These windows are old, they're the original to the house, but they're also not, they're about 100 years old. They're not as old as some of them that have been there for 150, 160 years. So they're in quite a good condition for their age, and they could easily be restored from our perspective.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Thanks very much.
All right, so now we need a motion to move into a session close to the public for the purpose of considering a matter concerning the property of the corporation, and specifically acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, and litigation or potential litigation, and subject to solicitor-client privilege. I need a mover and seconder for this. I guess Councillor Johnston and Councillor Robinson, you would be the interested parties. You're the mover and seconder. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that carries. Madam Clerk, if you could rig the chamber for our next phase of the meeting. All right, council now returns to public session, having met in a session closed to the public as permitted by the Municipal Act to consider a matter pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, litigation or potential litigation, and subject to solicitor-client privilege with respect to confidential item C2. And the chair looks for a mover. Councillor Duddick.
I'd be pleased to give you a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Demoff, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And it carries. Thank you very much, Council, for a well-considered decision. Now, we can now make the decision public. The recommendation adopted by council is that the town not proceed with a sale of Part 1, Plan 20R 19073, adjacent to 3358 Lakeshore Road West. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, you have your information items, your status of outstanding issues. Is there any new business? Councillor Demoff?
I would just like to very quickly congratulate staff on the amazing Children's Festival that was held. It was so incredibly well organized and so well attended. I know I, along with most of council, attended at some point or another during the day, and I think there were 4,000 people that took the shuttle, and there were over 400 people that rode, or 400 families that rode their bikes. I think 15,000 people that attended, and I have not heard anything bad about it at all. And as someone commented to me that day, there was just such a great energy at the park. And so I just want to congratulate staff on the first of what I hope is an annual event in the town of Oakville.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, it was a shining moment, for a shining day for our staff. And you know, it's amazing to look at all those beautiful young families with all those beautiful children and to see the future rising up before you there. So thank you very much for an inspiration in terms of creating that. That brings us to regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committee. All right. Any requests for reports? I'm not aware of any. Councillor Robinson?
I'm sorry to do this to you. I have one I'd like to try and get through now. I don't have a copy for anybody. It was just came to me late in the day from the clerk's assistants with what I'm going to read out here in a minute, and it's to do with designation and notification to the public. Can you? Okay. It's to do with public notification and involvement in designation of heritage properties. So with your approval, sir, I will read the request for a report, and hopefully maybe I can get this one passed. I haven't been doing too well tonight, but we'll try this. That staff be directed to report back to council. Staff be directed to report back to council on the feasibility of providing notice for submissions of notices of intention to demolish under the Ontario Heritage Act. And I need a seconder.
Councillor Dudek seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed to Finney?
Thank you.
You're 2 for 3 now. You're batting better than Jeter. If we could have a mover and seconder for the bylaws. Councillor Lapworth, Councillor Elgar. This is bylaws 2014-98, the fire route bylaw, and 2014-103, the bylaw to confirm the proceedings. All those in favor? Opposed to Finney? The bylaws are adopted. That completes the agenda. Thank you for your time and attention. It's been great working with you, and we are adjourned.